Actually, no, that's my website. Forbid TV, name of the YouTube channel. And we're on live if you want to join us. I've spent the last several days, the internet and the media is going nuts over this Fukushima water release. And there's absolutely no reason to be fearful of this whole thing. But boy, say the word radiation or say the word nuclear, and all of a sudden everybody goes nuts. And because my channel is largely dealing with radiation, and because I also sell radiation detection equipment and specialize in radiation detection equipment, then I'm supposed to do this, I guess. I just wish my channel was massively, had a lot of viewers, had a lot of subscribers, because I've been answering thousands of total idiots online who think there's a problem with his water, because they're just not really idiots. They're just ignorant. They think there's a huge problem and the media just hypes it up, because anytime there's anything relating to radiation or Fukushima or nuclear or something like that, the media just goes nuts over it. Hello, Starless Mystery. You think you're the first here. I'm talking about the radioactive water release that everybody's so concerned about. There's no reason whatsoever to be concerned about it. And I do have some information here for any of those who want. I really hope that this could go viral so that thousands and thousands of people can just come here and start being trolls, essentially, try to show how I'm wrong. I'd love for you to show how I'm wrong, because online, that's what I've been doing the last several days. Just thousands and thousands of people just being so ignorant about this radiation release, this water release. Okay, I missed, I think somebody, I saw the first word, it said China. I didn't see the rest of it. Actually, I should go to, while I'm talking here, I'm going to try to do this, because I probably can see them on my, I'm doing this on my phone. I pretty much disappeared again. I can only see it for a brief period of time on the phone. So let me go. I'm glad people are already posing questions or comments. So what I need to do, I go to YouTube Studio on my laptop, which is down here a ways that you can't see. Got my laptop on, and I can see, I should be able to see live what's going on here. I've turned the sound down, otherwise I'm going to get echo, what do they call it, feedback. Okay, no, I don't seem to be getting, where is my, this is a different video. Bear with me, folks, here. I'm trying to do this live. I very rarely go on live. YouTube Studio. Maybe I just go in the front door of my channel instead of through the let's go through just through my channel instead of, I'm trying to go through the back door. My channel. And I just find a video that should show that I'm on live, I hope. Don't know. Okay, here we go. 7 people watching as of the time I click this. And I got the sound turned down, so hopefully this should be good. Okay, I can see myself now. Let's see if I can see the stream. Okay, here we go. China is mad about the water release, I heard. Okay, yes, you heard right. China is mad about the water release. But that's the key to this here, actually. China is mad. China and South Korea are the ones that are mostly complaining about this water release. And the reason I put this in air quotes and the being mad and the complaining is because both those countries release more radioactive tritiated water than Japan does, could ever dream of doing. And I have some facts and figures here if I can find them. Let's see here, scroll down. China, the tritium content in the Onishan number 3 nuclear power plant has about 143 trillion becquerels. I gotta scroll here a little bit. Which is 6.5 times the amount Fukushima plans to emit. The Yanglingang, I'm sorry, I'm not Chinese, so I'm probably not pronouncing these right. Nuclear power plant has 5 times the amount. And the Red River nuclear power plant has 4 times the amount. Those are just three instances of Chinese nuclear power plants that have much more tritiated water that they're releasing than Japan ever has the possibility of doing. So this is one of the things that the media doesn't tell you. The media doesn't tell you that every single nuclear power plant in the world releases this tritiated water. It's a part of the normal process. You can't help it. It has to be done. But these power plants have a system called ALPS, which stands for Advanced Liquid Processing System, which is a water treatment system. Basically, most radiation or radioactive isotopes are particles. A particle. It's fairly easy to filter out a particle out of water. You can do that at home. That's one of the reasons I do when I do prepper stuff and I do conferences and things I tell you about radiation. You don't have to really worry about radiation in water. Just filter it through. If you have something like a Berkey or aquarane or a Proper or even a flower pot, you can soak water through a flower pot. That'll remove the heavy metal, the particles. It's just a matter of filtration. However, so you can do that yourself. If you need to get water out of a lake, a pond, a stream, a river, or something like that, and there's been nuclear fallout coming, just go get a bucket of water and put it through a filtration system. It filters out the heavy metals. Yeah, the water was irradiated, but you're removing the radioactive particles out of the water, and then it's safe to drink. End of story. So this ALPS systems that all these nuclear power plants use essentially does the same thing. However, tritium is a hydrogen isotope. Hydrogen, H2O, okay? If you remove the hydrogen from the water, then you have no water, and it becomes a gas then if you release it in the atmosphere. So they're being wise by doing what they're doing and keeping it in the keeping it as water and releasing it. These tanks have been over 12 years. Tritium has a half-life of 12.3 years. So the earliest tanks to be released, they've already have passed their half-life. It's already been over 12.3 years for the first part. The recent tanks, no. But anyway, and here's another fact that a lot of people nobody in the media is telling you about this. Absolutely no one in the media. And yes, South Korea also releases more tritiated water than Japan does too. And they're the ones complaining. And the reason China and South Korea are the ones that are complaining. Virtually no one else is complaining. This wouldn't have even been news if it wasn't for China and South Korea screaming. And the only reason they're screaming is because they are racist against Japan. That's right. And in a way, I can understand that. Japan did some very nasty things to dozens of countries in World War II. And South Korea and China still have hair up their ass about that. Other countries have moved on, not China and South Korea. So they've been running a 70-plus year propaganda campaign of hatred towards Japan. So anytime they can say anything bad about Japan to keep their people hating Japan, to keep the hate going, the racism, then they will do that until they change their policy. So this is the reason why China and South Korea are doing this, making this news. So they're spreading it all over the internet. When you look at any of these videos on YouTube, find out where they're from. And almost all of them say funded by the Chinese government or South Korean government. Most all of them are. They're the only ones that have brought this to it is really not news since every single nuclear power plant routinely releases this water. It's not news. All the other nuclear power plants in the world don't announce when they're going to release the water or tell you anything about it. They just release it. Very simple. I got on a little off track here. What I was going to also mention that nobody ever mentions is tritium also comes from nature. You see, they can't remove the tritium, not with this ALPS system. They can remove everything else, but not the tritium. ALPS won't remove it, but listen to this. If I find that I'm still trying to find, okay. I'm gonna scroll here a little bit. Okay, sorry folks, I'm trying to do, and I don't have the means to show you, oh boy. And I think I just lost my page. Okay, I gotta start over. Okay, well, let's start this over. I just X'd out, something popped up and I tried to exit out and it got rid of the whole thing. So I gotta find, I got it in documents here. Gotta click all these things, I gotta wait and wait and wait. Okay, well, I probably should go back, but as soon as it starts coming up, which is the documents are coming up now, there's got to X off all these prompts that it tries to get me to get online or whatever. Okay, why is this? Okay, this is something's definitely wrong here. I can't get on here now. It's going to continue to, apparently, it's put something in front of my screen. I'm sorry, I was going to use these as notes, and now my notes are screwed up. Okay, I'm going to have to try to work around it, if I can. Okay, I think I got rid of it. Sorry, folks, it's not very, oh, there it goes again. Why does it keep popping up? I wish I could show you what I'm seeing here, because it's just a pain in the butt. Okay. There are always around, here we go. I'm finally coming to it here. This is something they don't ever tell you also. There are always around 3,400 grams. Remember that number, 3,400 grams of naturally occurring tritium. Tritium comes from the atmosphere. It's from space. It's cosmic rays interacting with the atmosphere, creating tritium, which falls to Earth. It's been in every waterway in the entire planet ever since the existence of the planet. It's natural, okay? But there's 3,400 grams roughly of naturally occurring tritium in the Earth's atmosphere as it is constantly being produced by cosmic radiation interacting with the upper atmosphere. Most of the 3,400 grams are in the Earth's oceans. The water in Fukushima contains only 2 to 3 grams. I didn't say 2,300 grams. I said 2 to 3 grams. It'll fit in your hand. If you could isolate it, it would fit in your hand. All those tanks, all those 1.3 million tons that they keep screaming about of radioactive water that they're going to dump, they're going to pour into the ocean, contains 2 to 3 grams of tritium versus the 3,400 grams that are already existing in the environment at any one time. Now remember, it constantly recycles and changes because tritium has a half-life. It eventually decays to where there's nothing, but more tritium keeps coming. But so it's typically around 3,400 grams of tritium in the Earth's ecosystem at any one time. Always there, always will be, always has been. But Fukushima adding 2 to 3 grams over a period of 30 years, somehow we need to danger Will Robinson. Everybody's freaking out over this, and there's absolutely no reason to freak out over this at all. So you could release all of it at once, actually, and you would have no measurable impact. The ocean's huge. Oceans are huge, covering, what, 2/3 of the Earth's surface. There are actually a number of nuclear facilities that release significantly more tritium every single year. The La Hague nuclear processing plant in France, for example, releases 40 grams of tritium into the Atlantic every single year. 40 grams every single year. And that's in one year. Fukushima has 2 to 3 grams over a period of 30 years that they're releasing. The reason they are only going to release 0.1 to 0.2 grams, I said 0.1, 0.1 to 0.2 grams of tritium per year at Fukushima, is that the regulatory limits for radioactive releases from the plant are still the same as they were before the accident. So Fukushima isn't actually allowing themselves to release more tritium in 2023 than it did when it was a normally operating nuclear power plant. The media will never tell you these things. Never, ever. They absolutely need to fearmonger radiation and nuclear because the greenies want this ruinables thing to work out for them. And unfortunately, they understand that nuclear energy is clean, it's the safest we have, it's energy dense, it's environmentally friendly compared to all the other ones, including ruinables. I call it that on purpose. Believe me, I understand about ruinables, renewables. I've been doing wind and solar and electric vehicles for over 40 years. So yes, I understand ruinables. But the greenies are leading us into a disaster which will be exorbitant electricity rates, energy rationing, and massive rolling blackouts. That's where we're headed if you let the greenies get away with what they're doing with our grid and our energy system. Electric cars are going to be a disaster as well. But believe me, I'm in favor of electric cars. I've been using electric cars for over 40 years. I had 4 electric cars back as early as my 4th one I bought in the 80s. So no, none of them are Teslas. None of them are Rivians. None of them are or any other electric car that exists today, because none of them existed back then. In fact, we didn't have lithium-ion batteries back then either. So no, but I'm not in favor of forcing everybody to go in electric vehicles. That is going to be a disaster. So let's see, what else? Let me go back, because I see some things popping up and I'm on a roll here. So what I need to do is go back and read some of your comments and address some of them. So yeah, I addressed the first one about China. China and South Korea are guilty. Guilty, guilty, guilty. They release more tritium than Japan ever has or ever could. Okay, hello. They don't have room to talk about anything. During COVID, China seriously locked down. It seriously improved our atmosphere. Yeah, well, that's a whole different topic. COVID. I don't know if just saying the word might get me shut off here. Not sure what the status is anymore, because they're starting to fearmonger COVID again. This whatever, they have some other variant that they've been talking about on the news the last couple of days. They're talking about maybe doing lockdowns and masks again. Good Lord. See here. Technically, isn't everything on Earth from Earth? I'm not sure where that came from exactly. Everything on the planet is radioactive. Everything has a radioactive signature. I was working on replacing belts today on a mower. This is radioactive. This stapler is radioactive. Every single thing on the planet, including you, including your dog, including the trees out in your yard, have a radioactive signature. To think that Helen Caldicott, one of the biggest liars on the internet about radiation, one of her famous quotes is, if I could quote it exactly, "No amount of radiation is good," or any amount of radiation is bad, something of that nature. I'm paraphrasing here because yet everything is radioactive. In fact, life on this planet would not exist without radiation. Period. End of story. That's right. If there was no radiation on this planet, none of this would all exist. It would just be a barren rock. And we still have radiation because we get radiation from the space. But if there was no radiation, and why do I say that? It's very simple. The easiest way I can explain that to you, for those of you scratching your head saying, what is he talking about? The sun is radiation. If the sun wasn't there radiating its heat to the earth, we would be dead very quickly. It's radiation. My voice is radiation. Sound waves radiating from my body. Everything is radiation. It's ubiquitous. Everything is radioactive. So for anybody to come on and say radiation is bad, radiation evil, radiation no good, they're just ignorant. Let's see, any more comments here? If you confirm, I read somewhere exposed on the moon's surface, daytime, it's about 60 microsieverts per hour. Is that true? I'd have to look, this came from Crack Tower in the comment section. I'd have to look at the numbers. That very well could be. I don't have those numbers memorized. I don't have that information right in front of me. But yes, the moon, for instance, doesn't have any protection via the atmosphere to protect them from radiation. So you're getting the full force radiation that we get protected from here on Earth via the Van Allen belts. You see, the radiation here on Earth is limited from space because of the Van Allen belts and our atmosphere. The magnetic field and the atmosphere blocks the radiation, blocks some of it, most of it. And we have adapted to life on Earth to be able to withstand the radiation that we do get from space and from the sun. And in fact, when I take radiation readings all over the country, and yes, I've taken more radiation readings than anybody on YouTube, because I got tired of the trolls saying we're going to die if you live in California for some stupid reason. But when I take radiation readings, I take them at sea level. I get one reading. I'm trying to remember, I'm going to say about, I use Roentgens because that's what we generally use in this country. But yeah, most of the rest of the world uses sieverts, millisieverts, microsieverts, nanosieverts. But in Roentgens, I think milliroentgens, I think it's 0.0 0.08 milliroentgens. Between 0.06 and 0.08 milliroentgens you're going to get at sea level. When I do testing at high altitudes, like say when I went to Colorado Springs and tested there, they're about a mile up, it was twice that. And it's not because they're more radioactive there, but because of the ground or whatever, something nefarious from Cheyenne Mountain or something. No, it's because they're higher in the altitude in the atmosphere, and they have less atmosphere blocking the radiation, so they get more radiation. It's natural. And if I go, because they're at about I think it's about 5,000 feet elevation, and if I go from Colorado Springs, when I went to test on the nearby mountain called Pikes Peak, is that what it's called? I hope that's right. I was measuring more than twice that. Again, higher altitude, less atmosphere blocking the radiation coming from space. I'm not afraid of that. People go there every day. People live in Colorado Springs or anywhere in Colorado is basically that. It's kind of twice what you're going to get at sea level. I haven't found anywhere in the country where I'd be afraid to live because of radiation. And I've tested I've tested nuclear power plants. I've tested all over the country. I've tested thousands of places. Near you, even, and I put that on my website, forbiddenknowledge.info, by the way, if you want to check it out. So, okay, I can't confirm the numbers, but yes, there's going to be more radiation on the moon. And those spacesuits that they wear in space, they don't block out radiation, not much anyway. They'll block out beta, they won't block out any gamma, but the gamma is what the killer is gamma radiation. That's the penetrating. It's like X-rays. It goes through your body, goes through walls. It takes mass to stop gamma rays. So that's why our nuclear fallout shelters were in the basement, down underground, because mass blocks radiation, the gamma rays. The more mass you have, or underwater, it's kind of hard for us to stay a long time underwater, but anything massive blocks radiation. So if you want to get a shelter of some sort, you basically go underground. Let's see here. I'm tired of the media saying I should be worried, I should be afraid, I should be concerned. Tired of it. Yeah. But you know what? They're doing it because fear sells. Well, not only is there a political agenda for the media for the last half century or more to demonize nuclear energy, but also fear sells. So if you want more views, because I was watching I look at some of these videos, and the ones that are actually telling the truth, they have very few views compared to the ones that are screaming, we're all going to die, we're all going to die, we're all going to die, Fukushima. Because fear sells. And I've been doing a lot of debunking on my channel for a long time, and that's one of the reasons my channel doesn't grow, because debunkers don't grow. YouTube's algorithm actually prefers the fear mongering because it sells. You know, a lot of people like me who have no ways of making money off, well, they still make money off them. They still put ads on my videos sometimes. I don't make a penny off them because I'm not monetized. I refuse to have they play their money game, but they play the money game on me anyway. And because I'm not playing their money game, they don't like me, and my channel doesn't grow. My channel hasn't grown in years because I tell the truth. I debunk the nonsense that YouTube wants on their media, their outlet. They need nonsense on YouTube. It sells. That's one of the main reasons we have the problem we're having today. Okay, let's see here. Continue on. Any other comments? Thank you, Craig. Okay, that's not too many comments. Not too many people join because I don't have very many subscribers. I've over 18,000 subscribers, but very few people ever come here when I do any kind of live feed. It's just the way it is. I don't know. Most of the subscribers I got was from a video that I did back in 2016. It was another fear-mongering thing. It was the end of the world, September 21st, we're all going to die. Bible prophecy and The Simpsons and everything. They had everything in there. Jade Helm. They put everything in there to try to point to this date as being some kind of date that we're all going to die, everything's going to happen. And of course, nothing happened, but I had a video on a couple months before that date saying, no, nothing's going to happen. And it went as viral as I have ever gone. Over 300,000 views in like a month. And it went crazy, went crazy, went crazy. My phone was just making all kinds of noises all the time, comments going on. Idiots thinking that I'm wrong because whatever, because they saw it on The Simpsons. But of course, I predicted correctly, and then of course, no more views on that video. But so for all those people back in 2016 that did like that, that's a long time ago, and they aren't really with me anymore so much. They still subscribe to me, but they forgot all about me or don't care or whatever. So, or they want more of that Bible prophecy debunking stuff, because nobody likes to be debunked. When they have a favorite lie, they all want to hang on to that favorite lie, whether it be Bible prophecy, chemtrails, or whatever. Nibiru, flat Earth. They all need to hang on to that lie. Fukushima is one of them. They need to hang on to that lie. It's important to them to hang on to that lie. And when you debunk them, they get mad. The ones that get the most mad at me are the chemtrail people. They get the most angry at me. I get death threats from chemtrailers when I debunk their nonsense. Nibiru. I debunk a lot of things, and the chemtrailers are the worst. The flat Earth people, when I debunk them, they're like, oh, well, they're the nicest about it. But chemtrailers are outright nasty to you and mad. It's interesting. It really is. Let's see. I wish you do more videos. I just love your videos. Well, thank you. I just haven't been. I'm not. I enjoyed making videos when I saw my channel growing. And I was putting out a lot of videos, and I was watching and noticing that the algorithm changed because I was growing, and then all of a sudden, at some point, even though I was still putting out the same number of videos I did before, the same kind of videos, same quality videos, same topics, all of a sudden I wasn't growing anymore. And I don't make any money off this channel because a lot of people on YouTube do this for money. That's one of their main goals, is to make money, not me. I did it for the information. And I wasn't getting any more views, any more recognition, no incentive to keep going. So I do still put out some, but it's down to 4 or 5 a year almost now. And yeah, I'm sorry, and I would love to make more. I'm a busy man, and if my channel was still growing, I would probably do it. But my channel doesn't grow anymore. YouTube algorithm. What am I supposed to do about it? So I hope you understand. That's why I don't put out a lot more videos. Okay, and else, I hope people can continue to comment. If you want to keep me on longer, continue to comment, ask questions. I'm hoping to get a lot of trolls on you. This channel is not moderated. I don't have somebody sitting behind the scenes here. I just have my phone here, went on live and started, and that's it. And the computer here, no moderation. All the people that fearmonger this, Dana Durnford and Kevin Blanche, who do live shows. Well, Kevin Blanche doesn't do live shows, but Dana Durnford does a live show almost every night. He fearmongers the hell out of Fukushima, but he always has to have a moderator because it's easy to call them out. I've been having public debate challenges for those people. Anybody who thinks they're going to fearmonger about Fukushima radiation, I can easily debate them, and I've been challenging many people over the years and have public challenges on my channel for Dana Durnford and Kevin Blanche. They're the two biggest liars on YouTube. Helen Caldicott, Paul Mobley. There are hundreds and hundreds of them. I have a video listing all the fearmongers, the Fukushima fearmongers. I call them the Fukushima death cult. Even though nobody's been injured by Fukushima radiation, nobody's died, nobody's been injured by Fukushima radiation. The highest dose anybody on the planet got was 670 millisieverts. And that wouldn't be enough to even give you cancer later in life, because they have numbers that you can look at. And that was a first responder who was right there at the scene. So no, nobody's ever going to be injured by Fukushima radiation. Why Chernobyl and Fukushima? They challenged it. They put them at the same level of level 7. They're about the danger, Will Robinson. Well, Chernobyl had no containment vessel. It was built in a damn tool shed. And so when it literally blew, they had no containment, and it went released into the atmosphere, and people actually did die. The people that died from acute radiation syndrome were the first responders. People who went there to fight the fire. Those are the people that died. There hasn't been any attributed deaths due to radiation from Chernobyl, other than the first responders, the people who had acute radiation syndrome. They suspect there will be some deaths due to radiation exposure. About 10 times the amount of radiation was released at Chernobyl. Even though they're rated the same, Fukushima and Chernobyl rated the same. Chernobyl had about 10 times the amount of radiation released. And then Chernobyl, they had to build containment vessels around it later. The first one was kind of hurried. The second one, the biggest structure man ever made or something, there's a designation that slid over it. The containment building, they had to build the containment buildings after the fact because they had no containment buildings when they built the thing. Fukushima, however, 6 reactors, 6 containment buildings, and secondary containment buildings. They had 2 containment buildings around each reactor. The secondary containment buildings, that's when you saw explosions and you saw the buildings damaged, that's the secondary containment buildings. When those blew, yes, the secondary containment was obliterated. The secondary containment was when they are removing fuel rods from the reactors and putting them into the spent fuel pools. That's why the secondary containment building's there. 3 of those blew. You can see the damage, this big news, you can see all the damaged structures. It doesn't affect the amount of radiation being released from the primary containment because those are still intact. And that's why I wouldn't be worried about the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant either in Ukraine, because even if those melted down, every single nuclear power plant in the world, really, except for there's a couple of them that are still using the old RMBK reactors like the old Soviet Union did with Chernobyl. Any nuclear reactor that melts down, you are essentially not going to have any dangerous levels of radiation released out into the atmosphere. Just like 3 Mile Island. No dangerous radiation whatsoever released there. Even if you were right there at the site, no dangerous levels of radiation. Oh, and I think I'll do this since I did prepare for this. For those of you who goes, well, what about they evacuated? What about? Well, okay. For those of you who are, and I think you can see this later when, let's see here. I'm going to put in the chat, I'm going to put a link. There it goes, and let me send it. This link that I just sent, and for those, and I think it's going to be there after I get off the air here. This shows you that this is scientists, British based, that studied the whole situation in Fukushima and realized, and Chernobyl, and realized that nobody should have even been evacuated. There should never have been any exclusion zones at Fukushima. In fact, over 1,500 people died just in the hurried evacuation. Nobody would have died if everybody was stayed put. And so there should be no exclusion zones at all in Fukushima, and very few in Chernobyl. A lot of people never left the Chernobyl area, and there's no high incidence of cancer. All the countries that were downwinders, Belarus, I'm trying to think of some of the other, Romania, Ukraine, what are some of the other countries there? Germany. There's no higher incidence of cancer in those countries. Some 28 years later, how long has it been now? 27 years? No higher incidence of cancers. No major cancer increases in the immediate area either. No increases of cancers. But no, you aren't meant to believe that because they need to fearmonger. I'm going to put another link here for those of you who are watching this later or who want to look now. To drive home the fact, because people say, oh, well, this is different. This Fukushima water is different. You can't compare this. No, ALPS removes all but the tritium. And all nuclear power plants release the same tritiated water. How do I know this? Well, for one, all nuclear power plants release what are called radioactive effluent and environmental reports of their releases. And what I'm going to link next here in the chat, it will be there hopefully after I get off the air. Or did I just do the same one? Oh, I just did the same one. I'm sorry. Okay. Go back here again. A link from the Nuclear Regulatory Commission's website, which shows every single nuclear power plant in the U.S. that you can look up. So if you live anywhere near a nuclear power plant, which most of you do, you can go look up. You could go to that link, look up. When you scroll down, it'll show every single nuclear power plant in the country. You can click on whichever one you want, and it'll show you exactly how much tritium they've released over the last many decades in full release reports. And you'll always see that they show tritium in the releases. So yes, every nuclear power plant in the world releases tritiated water. It's a normal process. Can't help it. It's always going to be there. Tritium is one of the lowest levels. You won't find anyone in world history that has been injured by tritium, either from man-made sources or natural sources. You won't find it. No one has ever been injured by tritium. And I didn't say died, because I even said injured. Because if you're injured by, that could include death, right? Nobody's died, nobody's been injured by tritium, whether it's from man-made sources or from nature. We have astronauts in space right now who are less protected from radiation, and they have an annual limit. I can't remember what that annual limit is, and a lifetime limit. And same with nuclear power plant workers. Astronauts don't have a higher incidence of cancer, and they have a lot more radiation exposure than you and I do, or anybody that works in a nuclear power plant. And they don't have a higher incidence of cancer. Although they do have a limit. They wear dosimeters up there. Dosimeters measures an accumulated dose of radiation. And they know how much radiation they've been exposed to in their time at the space station, for instance, or if they go to the moon or wherever they're going, they know how much radiation they've been exposed to. It's said that the exposure going to Mars, and Mars doesn't have the atmosphere like we do here on Earth, so they'll be exposed to a lot more radiation, cosmic rays, than we are here on Earth. They're saying, I think the level was after about 3 years, you've reached a level where you probably should come back to Earth or go underground or something of that nature. And I think a trip to Mars would take you like a year and a half going there and back, and if you're going to stay any length of time, whatever. But if you go underground, because mass blocks gamma rays and cosmic rays, then you're going to be protected from radiation. More so than if you were just in space without an atmosphere, or the Van Allen belts, or on the moon. So, David Brown. At first it looked like some David Bowman. Hey, David Bowman? Really? 2001: A Space Odyssey? Sorry, Dave. I can't do that. Tritium is supposed to be dangerous because it takes place of water in the human body. Okay, let's address that. Thanks for the comments, by the way. And I don't consider this a trolling comment. This is a legitimate comment, but I kind of hope to get all the people just screaming at me, saying how dumb I am and how radiation sucks and we're all going to die. But this is a valid comment that is productive, right? He has a concern, or maybe he knows or thinks he knows. Let me give you something that I have listed here. Okay, there are few abstracts of scientific reports on tritiated water and organically bound tritium. You can find this. I don't have a link. I won't be able to show you a link here. It's by a C.E. Murphy Jr. You Google this and you can find this. And I'm going to quote this from this article, this paper. Quote, in addition, because of the role of hydrogen in metabolism, okay, so I'll pause here for a second. Hydrogen, remember, tritium is a hydrogen component. It's not a heavy metal. Tritium is hydrogen. It behaves the same way as hydrogen does. That's why they can't really remove it from the water with ALPS. Okay, going back again. Quote, in addition, because of the role of hydrogen in metabolism and its ubiquitousness in the environment, meaning it's everywhere, organisms have not evolved mechanisms to accumulate or concentrate hydrogen or its isotopes in food chains. Therefore, biomagnification of tritium is not a factor in food chain transfer. End of quote. What that said in a more layman's terms is, because tritium is basically hydrogen, it's a hydrogen isotope, the body doesn't store this, it doesn't accumulate this, doesn't have a mechanism to do so. So any tritium that does get in your body, hydrogen, is just basically flushed out. I think the figures I've heard is within a day, it's like gone anyway. And we're constantly, everybody on this planet is exposed to tritium. Everybody that's ever existed on this planet has been exposed to tritium. Everybody that's existed on this planet has drank tritiated water at some point in their life. It's in all the water, it's on the ground, it's everywhere, it's in space, it's in our environment. It's a naturally occurring isotope. So this, I wish I could find this a link and post it here on this. I don't have the link shown here, but let me read it again. In addition, because of the role hydrogen in metabolism and its ubiquitousness in the environment, organisms have not evolved mechanisms to accumulate or concentrate hydrogen or its isotopes in food chains. Therefore, biomagnification of tritium is not a factor in food chain transfer. So when people start saying the nonsense like, oh, the tritium in the water and the fish and the big fish, the bigger fish eats the plankton, the fish eats the plankton and it goes up the food chain, right? That's what you're led to believe. But no, mammals, fish don't have this in their capacity. They can't accumulate. So fish after fish eating a pond and we eat the fish, no, it doesn't bioaccumulate. I just showed that to you. So I hope that answers your question. Let me go back to the page. Let me see any other comments about that. From David Moe. David also says, for me, the whole situation in Fukushima sucks. All that, yeah. Okay, yeah, well, it really only sucks in the media. If it wasn't for China and South Korea raising whole hell of cane, this wouldn't have even been in the news. No other nuclear power plant store. All nuclear power plants produce it. After they treat it, they don't store it. They release it. Fukushima should have been doing that also. They made a very bad PR move by putting it in tanks and saying, oh, well, see, we're doing the right thing. We're storing and we're going to treat it later. Or whatever. Now, some of it they couldn't treat fast enough. Okay, then you do have to store some of it. But now they've been storing for 12 years, over 12 years, and haven't been releasing any of it. So the Fukushima situation doesn't really suck. This wouldn't be news at all if it wasn't for South Korea and China. Wouldn't be news at all. You wouldn't even know anything about it. They just would have been happily started releasing it. And it follows all the Japan water release follows all the recommended, the IAEA sets forth with tritium releases and releases from nuclear power plants. It meets all international industry safety standards. The water has been tested by 4 countries. It's been reviewed up the ass for a long time, decade. And so many experts have gathered together to find out what we're going to do with this water. They should just release it like they always do. Japan always did, and Japan still does in all their other nuclear power plants. But you don't have to hear about that, right? But you only need to hear when you hear the word Fukushima. That's when the danger Will Robinson comes in, right? Fukushima, that's the word that's dangerous, right? 2 to 3 grams of tritium released over 30 years. That's what we're talking about here. That's what everybody's scared of. Okay, let's see. It's an isotope of hydrogen, yes. And I should back up because somebody else commented earlier. Make sure I'm not, because I skipped one. Maybe I can't easily. Okay, I missed a comment by somebody earlier before my links. Isotope of hydrogen, but the water is like 90% of the human body. Maybe it doesn't need to bioaccumulate. Fukushima is still leaking radioactive isotopes into the Pacific Ocean. Okay, I'm not sure. This David, you're still fearful of this. I'm trying to show you that you don't need to be fearful, but if you want to still be fearful, that's your problem. How much cesium-137? Well, as I mentioned before, ALPS, Advanced Liquid Processing System, removes cesium-137. It removes everything essentially but the tritium. So the people that are online are screaming, oh, but this water is different than all other nuclear power plants released. Well, no, not after treatment through ALPS. After treatment through ALPS, it removes everything but the tritium. If it's working properly, it relieves everything. If they're doing everything properly, it relieves everything but the tritium. And that's what I've been explaining to you about the tritium here. All this last 43 minutes I've been on here, 44 minutes. Oh, now he's not agreeing with me. Now he says I'm talking smack. Prove me wrong, okay? That's why I love the trolls. Show me wrong, because I've already shown the facts and evidence, and you want to start talking smack. You say I'm talking smack. I've challenged everybody to go on live with me, to debate me. Show me where I'm wrong. And nobody can. I know my topic. I know the subject matter. You can't fight facts with nonsense or fear-mongering just because everybody else online told you you have to be worried about this tritium. You've been believing smack. He said, I'm talking smack. You've been believing the nonsense. I'm trying to bring to you facts and evidence because that goes a whole lot farther than fear-mongering and lies. So you can disagree if you want, but if you look into it, you'll find that I'm right. But you won't really look into it because you're already mad. Okay, let's see here. So, because I'm talking smack. Somebody else, somebody with the long name here, Dubois County in Indiana. A pile of doo-doo. So Fukushima water is safe to drink. Okay, yeah, that's another thing. Yes, safe to drink. Okay, several things about this. First of all, the answer is yes, with the caveat of how much seawater is in it. One of the reasons they release it into the sea is the sea is so big and it can be diluted. But even straight before dilution, there was some leakage into cracked reactor vessels. They believe that's how some seawater got into some of the reactor vessels. And so some seawater got into the vessels, and so they have to pump that out to keep they still had to cool down somewhat. Even after the fuels melted, they still had to keep it cooled down somewhat, even after it melted. So they have to pump out the water and it goes in these tanks. So in other words, there's seawater in these tanks mixed with all the isotopes. So this ALPS process does not desalinate the water. So I'm giving the long answer here. If it wasn't for the seawater, yes, you could drink it safely. In fact, we have on YouTube, there is a Japanese politician drinking the water in front of a conference. He's drinking the water. It claims that's where it's from. I don't know if it's true or not. I've been trying to get TEPCO to send me samples of it so that I could drink it and make a live YouTube video of it. I'd love to challenge all these trolls and people who think the wrong thing. So, but they won't send it. They don't even answer my emails. Liability concern. They're not going to do it. But hey, if you got some pull with TEPCO, give me some sample of the water. I'll drink it. I'll make a live YouTube video of it. If it's salty, I'll say, well, it stays salty. But if it has seawater in it, you could desalinate it as well. But there's no reason to desalinate it if you're putting it back into the ocean, right? So could you drink it? The answer is yes. You could drink it. We all drink tritiated water. Always have. Everybody on the planet always has. Everybody that ever existed. Isn't cesium-137 powerful beta gamma emitter? Again, ALPS removes the beta and gamma, beta, alpha and beta particles. Gamma doesn't stay in the water. As soon as you remove the particle, whether it be alpha or beta, there's no more radiation in the water. Water blocks radiation. So gamma, you're getting the gamma confused. Gamma is a gamma. I don't have to look exactly to see what cesium-137 if it's both a powerful beta and gamma emitter. It probably is. But if it's in the water and you remove it, it's no longer in the water. There's no gamma radiation that stays in the water. It's not even possible once you remove the radioactive isotopes that's in the water. So let's see here. So it's safe to drink. The answer is yes. And I wish I could get a sample of it to show you, make a YouTube video of it. Maybe that would go viral. I'd love to do that. I'd love to do that. Send me a sample of it. People say, well, you wouldn't go there and live there a year and eat the food. And I have a life here. Send me the food. I'll eat it. I'll make YouTube videos. It'd be interesting to see me eating fish and things from Fukushima. I'm not going to prove anything other than it's safe. But trolls don't like that. They'll say, oh, you can't do it for a year. You can't do it for 10 years. And you can't do it for, well, the Japanese people live longer than everybody else on this planet, eating a diet largely of seafood. That's right. The Japanese live longer than you do. Always have. They top the longevity list for a long time. Despite Fukushima, Hiroshima, and Nagasaki. That's right. They live longer than you do. Eating that fish, drinking that water. So grow up. Get a life. I'd love to have the food here and the water here so I could eat it and prove to everybody, but I'm in the US, and I'm not going to go to satisfy some stupid troll. I already went to the West Coast and tested 26 beaches for radiation, live readings, to show all the stupid trolls that know you're not going to die if you live in California, Oregon, or West Coast, or whatever. I already did that. And shut up the trolls for that. But that's why I wish I had the water, because I could shut the trolls up real quick. If I had the water here, I could shut them up and just keep drinking the water. Have it certified that it's water sent from TEPCO to me. That'd be great. Say somebody, and then David says freezing the water. Well, one of the options. Well, freeze the water and take it to the North Pole, South Pole, whatever. Okay, well, that's going to cost a hell of a lot of money. Or shoot into space. That's really stupid. Shoot into space. You know how much it costs to do that. And if you think it's so dangerous, what if the rocket blows up? Well, it'll just be water raining down. It wouldn't make it be any problem, but you think it's a problem, so the rocket blows up. It's going to kill you, right? Freezing the water or mixing it with concrete. That was another suggestion that was actually done. Why do we never see cats or krats? Wait, why do we never see any krats? Maybe you mean Democrats or politicians hold a press conference and say, hey folks, radiation is not all that bad, so don't worry about it. Well, they actually do, but those aren't the ones that people watch. And the media won't relay that. There's lots of videos showing that, but that's not what gets relayed to you. You get the fear mongering because that's what you want, you see, and that's what the media needs. Half a century of fear mongering of nuclear energy. One doctor says there is no safe dose of radioactivity. John Gorman. What did I just tell you? Maybe you weren't here with me. There's no safe dose of radioactivity. Find something here. This toilet paper is radioactive. This is dangerous. This is a dangerous dose for me to be near this. Every single thing on the planet has a dose of radioactivity in it. That's right. Every single thing that exists on this planet has a dose of radiation in it. The stapler must be absolutely horrendously dangerous. It's going to kill me because it's got radiation in it. Everything has radiation, so it's very easy to debunk whatever John Gorman and Helen Caldicott says that same thing, or words to that effect, that there's no safe dose of radioactivity. Well, the answer is obviously they are lying to you. There's no nice way to put that. They are lying to you. There is no radioactive water in fountain. There is a radioactive water fountain in Florida somewhere. Well, any fountain in the world is going to have radiation in it. End of story. So yes. Too bad you don't live there. If I lived there, and I could do the same videos, but I wouldn't. I'm not from Japan, so I'm from here. Were we drinking radioactive stuff before the first nuke tests were done? Yes. Tritium comes from space. Radiation comes from space. Radiation comes from the Earth too. The core of the Earth is essentially a nuclear furnace. News alert. Radiation we would not exist without radiation. So yes, we were drinking, eating radioactive stuff before the first nuke tests were done. Bananas, the highest radioactive things, and you can't test these with a Geiger counter, by the way. That's another thing people do not understand. Geiger counter will not pick up radiation in bananas, will not pick up the radiation of potassium in bananas or the radium in Brazil nuts, because that's radioactive as well, a little more radioactive. Your highest avocados, these are some of the higher radioactive foods. It's all natural. If you didn't have potassium, you would die if you didn't eat potassium either from avocados or bananas or whatever source. Potassium is radioactive. You would die if you had no potassium in your body. So to suggest there's no safe level of radioactivity, again, lie. See, you could move to Fukushima Daiichi near the reactor. I sure could. I'd love to, but I don't know Japanese. It's not my country. I have a life here. Maybe you don't have a life. I have a life here. If you're back east in the U.S., I don't know what that means. Get some of the water and test it with a Geiger counter. You can't test water with a Geiger counter. I just got done telling you. People don't understand about what a Geiger counter is and what it does. You cannot test water with a Geiger counter. I went to the beach and pretended to do that just to show, but you can't test. You have to have something in the water, out of the water, to be able to test it with a Geiger counter. Water is a shield for radiation. So no, you can't test water with a Geiger counter. Can't test it with a survey meter either. You need a mass spectrometer to test for any radiation in water. But, I must not know what I'm talking about. Okay, let's see here. I do appreciate the comments, though. He's being sort of a troll, and that's fine, because I have answers for everything. Goffman. Okay, is that the guy you're telling me about? Goffman, it's man-made. I don't know who Goffman is. Is that the doctor you were telling me that says that there's no safe level of radioactivity? Goffman, if that's what he said, he lied to you. Let's see here. What did Einstein think of radiation? What did Einstein think of the radiation? I don't know what you mean by that. One thing he said, one quote that supposedly was attributed to him, he says, it's a hell of a way to boil water, nuclear energy. I don't know if he would know what I'm telling you, that life wouldn't exist on this planet without radiation. That's ignorant. Okay, he's saying something is ignorant that I said. Well, show me what's ignorant, because you haven't been able to prove me wrong, and nobody can, of anything that I've said here tonight. The point is that human organisms is still very susceptible to mutation by radioactive sources. I just showed you that tritium does not bioaccumulate in the body, does not accumulate in food either, and it flushes from the body, and no one in world history has ever been harmed by tritiated water, or tritium in water, or tritium man-made outside of water. Find one. Post it on my channel sometime. I'll make a retraction showing somebody that's been injured by tritium. I'll make a video on it. You won't find any. Nobody has. Nobody in world history. Let's see here. Mutate. It takes a certain level of radiation to go to anywhere near to what you're talking about, to start talking about cancers or mutations or birth defects or all these things. Massive amounts of radiations that we don't have anywhere in our lives, never have had anywhere in our lives. Even in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, people in Japan, like I said, the birth defects didn't go up, mutations didn't go up, there's no increase in cancers in Japan, and they still live longer than anybody else on the planet. The only country that's ever been nuked by nuclear bombs. And they have an active nuclear reactor problem. They still live longer than anybody else on the planet. Let's see here. How many people in Europe had damaged thyroid glands after Chernobyl? Well, you can look it up. There was a lot of fear mongering about this, and in fact, also fear mongering supposed thyroid cancers increase in Japan, and it's not true. You can start looking up. I wish I could send you lots of links here. I got lots of links. If you want to ask, I can send you links. It'd be harder for me to look up. Look up thyroid cancer incidence in Japan, and make sure you include things like debunked or fact check. Certain keywords are important to find the ones that aren't just fear-mongering you to death. Or put in PDF. Those usually include scientific papers. In your search, Fukushima, thyroid cancer increases PDF, or fact check, or something of that nature. Because when you start adding words like fact check or PDF, you're going to start finding scientific papers, not the fear-mongering. You see how that works? Let's see here. How many people in Europe? There is no increase in cancers in Europe. All the countries surrounding Pripyat in Ukraine, Chernobyl, no increases in cancers. Look up the statistics. You think I'm lying to you? Look up the statistics. There will be a lot of fear-mongering saying there is increases in thyroid cancers, and there are a lot of people that had their thyroid cancers removed. The key to this, as far as the thyroid goes, thyroid absorbs the radioactive iodine, and then it'll help you flush flush your body of radioactivity. So the iodine, the thyroid is the first affected. That's why we take potassium iodate or potassium iodide to try to protect you if there's a nuclear incident, because it floods the thyroid with iodine. But anyway, if you look at the real facts about any increases in thyroid cancers in Japan or Ukraine or whatever, you'll find that it's because of the fear of it, and the people were testing more. They found more incidences of thyroid cancer because they were just testing more, and it wasn't an increase. The number of incidents per 100,000, which is usually how they do these medical tests, wasn't increased from what it was before. So yeah, they were finding more thyroid cancers, but it was only because people were testing more. That's the simple explanation for it. Okay, let's see here. We don't live in space. We live on planet Earth, where there is some protection from radioactive sources. Yes, I think I've already covered that. He very notable. He very notable. This Goffman, a doctor and nuclear physicist. Well, if he's telling you that any radiation is bad, then he just lied to you. Like I explained to you, remove all radiation from this planet, and you would not be alive. Neither would this Goffman guy. What else am I supposed to say to that? The guy is a liar. If you've quoted him correctly, he is an absolute liar. Now, you said he was a doctor. Is he a doctor or is he a nuclear physicist? Make up your mind. I guess you could be both. There are some channels on YouTube here of nuclear physicists who talk about these topics, and they have much more viewers than me, some of them. Let's see, at California, Berkeley, back in the 60s. I presume this is where this Goffman was, so maybe he's not even alive anymore. But everything's radioactive. Sorry, bud. Or sorry, David. Let's see. Anyway, does it make sense to you have 50 plus nuclear power plants in Japan in a highly geoactivity zone? Yeah, yes, it actually does. That plant was not damaged by the earthquake. It was damaged by the tsunami. And there was a plant less than 10 miles away, also on the coast, called Fukushima Daini, which experienced no meltdowns, also had the same tsunami. A sister plant, I think they had 6 reactors as well and didn't have any meltdowns. No nuclear power plant in the world has melted down due to an earthquake. They're designed for that. Even the most powerful ones, being a 9 or a 9.1, depending what source you look. That's one of the world's highest levels of recorded earthquakes in world history. And it survived it just fine. It didn't survive the tsunami. Yeah, they made a mistake. I can't argue, and it hasn't come up here yet, but one of the things the trolls always do, I can't argue the fact that, yeah, they probably shouldn't have the generators in a lower level where they were flooded, or the fuel tanks where they flooded. Yeah, that was a dumb move. Now you won't find any nuclear power plants like that because they learn and they correct it. So yes, I do think there should be 50 plus nuclear power plants. They don't have that many. There may be 50 plus nuclear reactors, not power plants. There's a difference. Making electricity for Japan, because Japan doesn't have the natural resources like other countries do, and they must do something if they want the electricity. Either that or they're going to have to just import a lot of coal and oil, which is what they started doing a lot more of when they shut down all their plants temporarily. Unnecessarily, I would add, but they made all the adjustments to their plants and they opened most of them back up. And we should be building more nuclear power plants all the time, but we aren't, because you are scared. You are fearful unnecessarily. It's the safest form of electricity we have. Yes, it's safer than ruinables even. That's right, safer than ruinables. Safer than wind, safer than solar. Look it up. Don't believe me. You could just scream nonsense if you want, but that reactor didn't survive the tsunami. Yeah, I just said that, and then you retracted something. The radioactive drinking water fountain is in Punta Gorda, Florida. Well, again, everyone is radioactive. Anything coming out of the ground is radioactive. Everything is radioactive. We've all drank radioactive water. Everybody that's ever existed on the planet, long before anybody knew what a Fukushima was, has drank radioactive water. Somebody is addressing a 9-point earthquake off the Fukushima in the sea, made a 50-foot wave that hit the plant, flooded the plant. Yeah, that's what did the damage to that plant. It wasn't the earthquake, it was the tsunami. And because they had the generators that got flooded, they lost ability to keep the plant, the reactor cores cool. And that's why it melted down. And 3 of them melted, 3 of the 6 melted down. 2 of them were already shut down. If they would have had the backup generators on higher ground and the fuel tanks on higher ground, we wouldn't be talking about this today. And that's why today all of them have that. Find one that doesn't. You won't find one. They learn from the mistakes. The mistakes that were from in 3 Mile Island. The mistakes were 3 Mile Island, Fukushima, and Chernobyl. That's everything. That's all the things that people bring up all the time when they say nuclear bad, nuclear bad. Those 3 things, no deaths on 2 of them. 0 deaths, 0 injuries on 2 of them. 0. Chernobyl proves that nuclear energy is the safest that we have. That sounds weird, but it's true. Chernobyl proves how safe nuclear energy is. It's the only one we've really had deaths. No, there actually have been ones that have had deaths, but you don't know about those because the press hasn't latched onto them yet. Look up SL-1. SL-1 actually had some deaths right here in the US from nuclear energy. SL-1. Why haven't you heard of that one? Because the press likes to lie. And it's a small one. There was only a couple deaths. Well, it's only a couple deaths and it was a small reactor. I can't even remember if it's 2 or 3 deaths. I think it might be 3 deaths, actually. So we actually have had deaths here in the US due to nuclear energy. It wasn't a commercial energy. It was a military. Basically it was a small military reactor. But they had some deaths. Let's see, nuclear winter, fact or propaganda. Oh boy. Before I get done, let's see. Well, it doesn't make sense. How was the tsunami created, sir? The tsunami was created by the earthquake, but it survived the earthquake. Nuclear winter. Fact or propaganda? Propaganda. Think about this. Here's the best way I can put it to you. First of all, we've had about 2,000 nuclear warheads detonated on this planet. Have we had a nuclear winter? About 1,000 of them were above ground. Where's your nuclear winter? When we nuked Arizona, New Mexico, Nevada, did anybody die from those? Did we evacuate New Mexico or Colorado or Kansas or where's your nuclear winter? Oh, there wasn't that many bombs, you say. Okay, how about this? No, not that many bombs at once. There were about 1,000 above ground nuclear warheads detonated and no nuclear winter. But that was over a period of time. Consider this. If you take the energy, the actual amount of energy in a hurricane, a powerful hurricane, is more energy, measured energy, than every single nuclear warhead in the world detonated all at once. When we have a hurricane, do we experience a nuclear winter? There's more energy there than every single nuclear bomb in the world. No nuclear winter. Yes, some dust would be expelled into the atmosphere when a nuclear bomb, depending whether it's a ground burst or an air burst, will depend on how much dust will be expelled into the atmosphere. But as I just mentioned, when we nuked Nevada, did we evacuate New Mexico? Why is that? Because these are some of the heaviest isotopes known to man. They drop out of the air pretty quickly. That's why we didn't have to evacuate the whole United States or states downwind when we detonated nuclear weapons in Nevada or New Mexico or Arizona. China didn't have to evacuate their country when they did it. Soviet Union didn't have to evacuate their country when they did it. Neither did France or the United Kingdom or Israel. Don't forget Israel. So yeah, nuclear winter is a lot of hype. It's meant to fearmonger nuclear, and that's what the nuclear winter is all about. Let's see here. I've already missed some of them, maybe. What about the claims made the American soldiers were hurt by nuke tests? There were some that were injured. They were very close. Some of they were actually ordered to get out after the explosion. Don't look at the light. Boom. Okay, get out of your trench and walk towards the source. Walk towards the mushroom cloud. There's a lot of radiation there. And yes, they were experimenting on our troops. They were close by. They weren't, a state away or whatever. Ask Craig about his wooded property and the army truck rebuild. I think that would be okay. Well, it's off topic. I don't mind talking about it. I'm still waiting for a mechanic. I've got it 90% done, 95% done. The engine's in place. Everything's hooked up pretty much. Waiting for a mechanic to come out. I wanted a mechanic to be there when I start it because I don't want a runaway engine. I don't want something damaged. I want to make sure I did things right. I don't want something going wrong. I put a lot of time and energy into that, putting a new engine in a military army truck is what he's talking about there. If you're new to my channel, you don't know what I'm talking about. But so I've got 2 machines that are like 95% ready to have the engine started up. The new engines are in place. These machines haven't started up in more than 20 years, but yeah. Off topic, let me continue on here. They're describing dust and smoke from nuclear fires. I noticed this phenomena after the fires here in Northern California. But fires don't have the heavy isotopes coming into the air and coming down to what we call fallout. You have ash coming down. The ash will be the ash is radioactive too, but it doesn't have the heavy isotopes, the cesium and uranium and plutonium and the things that you're going to be worried about, because those drop out of the atmosphere pretty quickly. But yeah, ash, if you get enough ash in the atmosphere, you could reduce the amount of sun. In fact, some super volcanoes over the Earth's history have said to be able to have blocked out enough sun to affect the crops the following year until all the ashes come out. But as far as radioactivity goes, this would all drop out pretty quick. Oh, by the way, when a volcano erupts, yeah, that's radioactive. It's coming from the nuclear furnace down below, and it's spreading out. But the heavy isotopes radioactive isotopes, which are heavier than the other types of isotopes, drop out pretty quickly. That's why when we nuked Nevada, we didn't have to evacuate Arizona or New Mexico or Colorado or Texas. Let's see, I'm wondering about that truck too. Well, I haven't done a video about it recently in a long time. I just replaced one of the tires. I put on new tires. I've been doing things to it, but it still hasn't run. I purposely haven't started it yet. Waiting for that mechanic to come out. Boy, I've had about a dozen mechanics I've been gone through. People don't want to work anymore. I pay them cash too. They don't want to work. I got one that did come out twice, and he says he's going to come out the 3rd time now. I only need one more time, I think. He did some work on one of them. Let's see here. How have things gone with the trespassers on your trail cameras? Okay, well, we're getting off topic here again, but that's okay. Some people want me to put out, I have thousands and thousands of videos and pictures of, I have about 30 cameras set up all over the property because I was having problems with hunters mostly, and vandals and some other things over the years, over the last 40 years on the property, 50 years. But cameras everywhere. I haven't had the problem with the trespassers with the cameras up. Some are visible, but most aren't. I have cameras watching cameras. Camera here, camera looking at the other one to protect that camera, because hunters like to steal cameras. Haven't had any cameras stolen, haven't had any trespassers really, and I've got lots of wildlife pictures. And I've saved lots of them, and I hope to put a video out gathering together, because they're interesting. Both nighttime, daytime, and close-ups, and really strange things sometimes, what you see in nature. I think you were onto something, selling your nuclear wares. Guess you'll have to rethink, buy stuff from you in the future. I always tell people, if you're worried about nuclear war or nuclear power plant accident, well, nuclear war is different. I have items that you might want. But I don't fearmonger it, as you notice, and I don't have any monetization on my channel. I don't fearmonger nuclear war because it's not going to be a big issue to us. It really is nothing to be fearful over, unlike what the media has told you over the past, 60 or 70 years. You've been meant to fear it. I don't fear it. But for people who do, and I'm a prepper, it's good to have a radiological survey meter, not a Geiger counter. You have a radiological survey meter and some dosimeters and maybe a dosimeter charger. This would be a good thing to have if you want to prepare for that, because that's what our government did. But I don't want to have one handy to show you within reach, but But anyway, yeah, don't buy from me. If you're worried about nuclear power, yeah, I don't have anything that's going to help you if you're worried about nuclear power because there's nothing to worry about. Maybe have some potassium iodate if you live near the plant, near a nuclear power plant, and a lot of nuclear power plants in my travels all around the country, a lot of nuclear power plants do supply potassium iodate or potassium iodide to the people living nearby that might be downwind if there is an accident. And if there is an accident, take a pill, leave the area until you find out if it's safe to be staying in the area. Simple, nothing to be worried about. Because David is still, he's still trying to troll me in a way, and that's fine. You're doing fine. How long would one have to stay underground after a nuclear event? Nuclear event depends what you're talking about. If it was a nuclear bomb, you'd want to stay underground 2 weeks at the most. And that's if you're close enough to be affected by it. Most of you will not be close enough to be affected by it. A week or two. That's it. Now, if there's bombs continually going off more and more, then okay, you might have to stay on the ground longer. And again, it depends how close you are. And if you're downwind, or if you're upwind, or if you can see the mushroom cloud, or if you can't, there's different scenarios. And how many bombs were air bursts and how many were ground bursts. There's so many variables there. It's not a clear-cut answer. But if you live near a big city and that city got nuked, the answer is 2 weeks at the most. Till the radiation levels will start dropping dramatically after the event. And if you had a way to detect it, you would know whether or not you could then go out and if it was safe to go out. Or just wait for the trust FEMA, right? Wait for FEMA to come by and tell you it's okay. They'll give you a nice fallout trailer to live in. Let's see here, but they block smoke and dust, sunlight. I think that's what we're talking about with nuclear winter. As part of it, yes, blocking out sun and smoke, the dust and dirt, blocking out sunlight. That could cause, but again, the amount of energy in one hurricane is more than every single nuclear warhead in the world detonated all at once. So, let's see, smoke and dust. And speaking of smoke and dust, and everybody knows now what an N95 respirator, a mask. If you are involved in fallout, all you gotta do is wear a mask. It'll block the alpha and the beta radiation from getting in your body. It might be on your skin. You go into some place and wash it off, and then there's no more danger if you wash off the particle that gets on your skin. Then you're safe. Let's see here. What else? That's funny. Nobody wants to work anymore. Yeah. Government. We're becoming a socialist country, right? Does an NBC-rated mask do any good for any nuke situations? I think I just almost covered that. NBC means nuclear, biological, chemical, or ABC, atomic, biological, chemical. ABC was before, NBC is now. Now they actually have something other designation. But anyway, the answer to your question is, yes, an N95 mask will protect you from alpha and beta radiation. It will not protect you from gamma rays. A gas mask will protect you from alpha and beta radiation, but not gamma radiation. So yeah, you might have an NBC filter, but it doesn't cover gamma radiation. Gamma will go right through that mask, right through a wall. You need mass. You don't have mass there with a respirator, an N95 mask, or a gas mask. You don't have the mass there needed. So a gas mask or a respirator will not protect you from gamma radiation. And gamma radiation is the most dangerous of the three that I just mentioned here. No fear mongering, that's good. However, every special interest group has got their hand out these days. The military, medical, you working for the nuclear industry now? No, I never understood why everybody could think that. I don't have it. If I was working for the nuclear industry, I probably wouldn't have to do any of these videos. And I wouldn't, and I'd have to have a social security number, and I'd have to have a YouTube channel where I'm promoting nuclear energy, and I don't promote nuclear energy. I debunk the liars about nuclear energy and nuclear war. I'm not pro-nuke. I'm not anti-nuke. I'm anti-liar. Pro-truth. Information. You actually haven't heard me say anything pro-nuke off this whole thing, really. You want to think that, but that's not the case. See here. Nobody's ever paid me a penny. I've never got a penny off of YouTube. Never got a penny from anybody for anything I do. I do get some money if somebody buys something from me. But as you notice, I don't fearmonger a thing. And if you're worried, if you're worried about all this stuff, then you don't want anything from me. Don't buy. When the COVID hit, I made a video, and it's still up. Said if you're buying this because of COVID, you shouldn't be buying a gas mask. Shouldn't be buying my water filter. Shouldn't be buying the freeze-dried food. This is all unnecessary. But people did. Okay, I warned you. I did the same thing when Putin started his nonsense. I said, if you're doing this because of nuclear war, and if you don't live right there in Ukraine, then you don't want any of this stuff. If you live right in Ukraine, okay, maybe you might want this stuff because it might happen. I don't think it's going to happen, but it might. I wouldn't be worried about it. I wouldn't be worried about the nuclear power plant melting down either. Will regular basement sealed provide any protection? Would a regular basement sealed provide any protection? Yes. Being underground, again, if it's a walkout basement has a lot of windows, depends on which way the gamma rays are coming from, because they'll be coming from the source. If Chicago got nuked and you're in Springfield, Illinois, and your walkout basement is facing Chicago, well, first of all, you're too far away; it wouldn't be any problem. But if you were closer, that glass isn't going to do any protection for gamma rays. But if it was coming from the other way, if your walkout basement was facing away from Chicago, then you're protected. Sealed, yeah, just keep out the dust. Duct tape and plastic, I know that was a thing back in 9/11. And that, yeah, you keep the dust out because the dust could have alpha and beta radiation particles. Keep it out. Filter the air if you can. You're not going to have any power, more than likely, so do what you can. But if you can't protect it, wear a respirator if you think there's radioactive particles. What protects against gamma radiation? I think I've covered that. Mass, water, concrete, earth, books, something thick, heavy. Mass protects you from gamma radiation. That's why they use lead to put on your body when you're getting an x-ray or something that's not on your chest, or they wear the protection on their chest. Lead, something heavy, mass. How many years of food should we put back? That's how many years of food storage. That's up to you. The Mormons think a year, I think. That's entirely up to you. I don't fearmonger that either, even though I'm a prepper. I've had videos about this. If you don't believe me, check my videos. I tell people, if you're not really extremely worried about all the major stuff, don't store anything. You already have, if you have no food stored, you already have about 2 weeks at least food stored. If you need to stay in your basement for 2 weeks because of a nuclear bomb, you already have 2 weeks of food stored. You already have 2 weeks of water stored, even if you're not a prepper. You already have that. Look in your cabinets. You can last 2 weeks of what you got in your cabinets. Eat the stuff in your refrigerator and freezer first, because that's going to go bad. But start looking around your cabinets, and you may not like what you have to eat, but you got more than 2 weeks worth of food store. You got more than 2 weeks of water stored too. Unless you have a tankless water heater, you have about 30 to 40, maybe 50 gallons of water stored in that water heater that will be safe to drink. FEMA, Red Cross, they recommend about 2 weeks for the food store. You already have it. You don't have to do a thing. You already got it. You might want to have a few medical supplies, but you probably already do. You got some Band-Aids and things in a cabinet at your home. There's other things you might want, and it really depends. It depends on what you believe. It's all about a belief. Because every single one of you watching me right now, and every single one of your grandparents and great-grandparents didn't have anything happen in this country that would require them to have a year's worth of food stored. None of them. You have to go back to the 1865 was the last time anything happened in the U.S. that would have required you to have a lot of food or water stored or anything of preparedness items. That's right. Even if you lived in New Orleans when Katrina hit, first of all, you were warned. You could have got out of there. Second of all, you could walk to the next county, the next parish, and Aunt Betsy, they had electricity, they had water, they had food, stores were open. So no, you've never experienced anything, neither have your parents or grandparents, that would have required you to have a year's worth of food store. There could be some circumstances where personally, like you lose your job and your health or something like that, that you might have needed some prepping. But as far as some type of natural disaster or some kind of man-made disaster, some kind of emergency situation, none of you should have to worry about that unless you believe something bigger could happen. I'm not saying nothing bigger could happen, but you already have 2 weeks with a food store and everything, so you don't really need anything. For the most part, I have a video saying that. It's been up for many years on my channel. You don't need to store anything unless you think something major is going to happen. Nothing major has happened in all of your lifetimes, and not likely to, but it could. That's a personal decision. See here. I met you in Indianapolis, and you are the last person one could accuse of fear-mongering. You are, and then it ends. Okay, well, thank you. Yeah, I don't do many shows anymore since the pandemic. I used to do a show every weekend somewhere in the country. Next weekend, I'll be in Atlanta, Georgia, Dragon Con. I do that every year. I've done it for about 10 years now. Indianapolis, I'll be in Indianapolis November, and I do that show about 3 or 4 times a year, and I really don't do any shows anymore, really. And by shows, I mean, well, science fiction show is Dragon Con. I've done ham radio conventions. I've done a lot of different gun shows. I do a lot of different types of shows. And I'm selling my stuff. But you'll see in person, I don't fear-monger either. Anyway, nice to meet you. I argue with you in person, or is it agree? Argue with me in person, but this typing on my iPad sucks. Okay. I argue with you in person. Well, unless you've met me in person, you weren't the one that had met me in Indianapolis, so okay. More informative than anything. Yellowstone blue, how screwed would we be? Well, yeah, Yellowstone, that's a thing that, of course, you can see fear-mongering about that too. How many millions of years has it been, and how many millions of years till it might happen? And who knows? But Yellowstone blowing, yeah, that'd be a bad thing, and it might create a nuclear winter of sorts. It would be a year, depending on when in the year it happened. It could be a year. I should say, should be. It could be a year where you have reduced crops for the following year, if the worst happened at Yellowstone, because it's basically a volcano underground. It hasn't blown in a long time. Let's see here. What's your opinion on atmospheric generators, aka fancy dehumidifiers? I think I know what you're referring to. There's an internet meme that suggests that you can get free water out of the air, free drinkable water out of the air. Well, that's not really true. A dehumidifier, yeah, does that. It removes water from the air, condenses it down to a liquid, and you can drink it. It's not free. You have to have electricity to do that. So you have to have a power source to do it. And so the simple answer is they work, but do you have the electricity to do that? Maybe you do. I have some Ki, don't live near a reactor though. Ki refers to potassium iodate, potassium iodide. It's a good thing to have around if something really bad happens. I sold out of that pretty quick, although I think I got about 50 more bottles back in stock, something like that. That's the first thing that sells out when Putin starts spewing his nonsense. I got a neat dosimeter finally. Oh, so you got a dosimeter. Also, so you're still nervous about it. It depends what the rating is of your dosimeter. If you got it from me, it was probably 200 Roentgen. That's meant for nuclear war. You're going to need, for as fearful as you are about something happening, you're going to need a 200 milliroentgen dosimeter. And even then, you're not going to find anything that's going to make that needle move, unless something big happens. That's right. You probably bought a dosimeter for no reason. But it depends what you bought it for. And it depends on the scale, because they have different scales. Another one says, NASA scared the crap out of me because they were talking about venting Yellowstone. Okay, I hadn't heard that. I don't know what they mean by venting Yellowstone. It vents by itself. That's what Old Faithful is, for one. Releases pressure. I'm not sure what they're talking about, what NASA was talking about. So owning a Geiger counter is a waste of money. Well, it depends on what you think you're going to buy it for. The only way you're going to be able to use a Geiger counter as an emergency is if it's in your basement, protected from the gamma rays, the high radiation. You have to protect it from high radiation because there's nothing you're going to measure with a Geiger counter that's going to kill you. You're not going to measure anything with a Geiger counter that's even going to hurt you unless you're exposed to it a long, long time. I don't have a Geiger counter handy to show you, but I can get the Geiger counter to scream with some things that I have, and you'd think I'd be in danger, but no danger whatsoever. But if you get too much radiation on the Geiger-Muller tube, it will saturate the tube and it won't work at all. It'd be dead. Geiger counter will be useless in a dangerous level of radiation. Geiger counter will be useless unless you have it in the basement, protected from the radiation, or something massive, shielded. So yeah, I never recommend Geiger counters. And if you think you're going to test for radiation in food, the Geiger counter will not do it. It's funny to see. Anytime you see a YouTube video of somebody doing that, showing high radiation in food with a Geiger counter, they're lying to you, flat out lying to you. You need a mass spectrometer, and you don't want to afford a mass spectrometer, and you wouldn't know how to use it anyway, even if you had one. It's a laboratory grade equipment, and you're not going to get one. You're not going to be able to use one. Hundreds of thousands of dollars to get one that's going to do what you think it's going to do, that you think you want it to do, and no. And then you need a huge learning curve how to use the thing. So no. Don't buy a Geiger counter to check for radiation in food. The only way it would detect radiation in food is on food. If the food came into your shelter, green pepper, had a lot of dust on it, then you might detect some radiation on it. But you're going to wash it anyway first, and then there'd be no radiation on the green pepper. And the green pepper might have been irradiated. Think about this. All the food that you buy, not all the food, but fruits and vegetables, meat, a lot of it has already been irradiated before it hits the grocery store. It's done to kill certain microbes. They irradiate it, but it doesn't mean it has radiation in it from the test, from the processing. It goes through a processing like gamma rays, and once it goes through, you can't measure. Once the green pepper goes through the irradiated process, you can no longer measure any radiation on that green pepper. Food and water can be irradiated, but it doesn't mean it maintains the radiation. So you could go outside in a nuclear war and go outside and pick an apple. Bring the apple inside. You measure with a Geiger counter, it might have radioactive isotopes on it that you can measure with a Geiger counter. You wash it off, water, measure it again, nothing. Safe to eat. A loaf of bread might have dust all over the wrapper. Geiger counter screaming. Brush off all the radiation, take the bread and measure it, nothing. Safe to eat. Yeah, it's been irradiated, but it's safe to eat. You've got the particles off, the dust off. Gamma rays go right through, doesn't stay in the food. Got me? Let's see here. So why do they make a big deal out of us storing nuke waste in mountains and such things? Nuclear waste. Boy, there's a topic. We love talking about, anybody that is promoting the nuclear waste loves to talk about nuclear waste because it's the best thing about nuclear power. That may sound contraindicative, but it's not. Let me see. I wish I had a link that I could show. I could put on there real easily. Let me see. Let me think of a link I can find real quick. You've been lied to all your life about nuclear waste. First of all, no one in world history has ever been harmed by nuclear waste, by stored nuclear waste. Let me say that again. No one in world history has ever been harmed by stored nuclear waste. Here's a great thing to look up. Because you owe it millions of years and you can't get near it and there's no way to store it and bullcrap. Look up Oklo Gabon. 2 words. O-K-L-O Gabon. G-A-B-O-N. Oklo Gabon. It's in South Africa. It's in Africa. I think it's near South Africa. In South Africa. I can't remember. It's in Africa. A 2 billion year old nuclear waste site. Yes, that's right. A nuclear fission waste site. 2 billion years old. And back then, they didn't have anybody that, put it in expensive casks or buried it and put signs up. And no, it was just there, a natural nuclear fission reaction. Scientists have proven this. And what they've also found is the nuclear waste and the contamination didn't spread all over the air. It didn't contaminate the water and kill everybody for millions of miles away. It stayed pretty much right where it was. Oklo-Gaban, look it up. So right now they pull the fuel rods out of a nuclear reactor. They put it in a fuel pool. It's about 20 feet deep of water, about 20 feet of water above because water is a great shield, because these rods are radioactive. They only remove about 5% of the radioactivity out of them, by the way. Then they put them in these water and they cool them there for 5 to 10 years in the water. Spent fuel pools. You can stand right above the spent fuel. You've got 20 feet of water protecting you, shielding, mass. And then after they cool down some more, they cool down their way. Then they pull them and they put them in casks, steel concrete structures that do more shielding. But by then they're cool enough they won't continue to need any cooling. And there's a good video. There's a good picture. Somebody recently took a really great picture of a pregnant woman hugging one of these casks with her belly right up to the concrete. You can walk among them. There's no radiation there. Shielded. The level of the radiation drops off dramatically. And to think that you need to store them underground for billions of years, oh God. Why in the world would you do that? First of all, they have 95% of their energy still in the rods. Secondly, we have something called reprocessing, where they can take that uranium pellets and the MOX fuel and reprocess it into something that they can continue to use in other nuclear power plants, fast breeder reactors. You can actually use the spent fuel to continue to make power and further deplete it. We could also there's 4 different ways we can deal with nuclear waste, and they only tell you about the one. They fear-mongering the hell out of it, and that's the worst thing to do with it, to bury it. Why would we do that? That's dumb. It's safe, it wouldn't hurt anybody, but it's dumb. Costs a lot of money, and it's just a talking point for the anti-nuke people. We could reprocess it. That's one thing we can do with it. And we could reuse it. Reprocessing it, we can turn it into more fuel rods. Reusing it is the fast breeder reactors. Unfortunately, we don't really have hardly any fast breeder reactors in this world, so we can't really do that until we get off our butts and start building some fast breeder reactors. Because all that nuclear waste is fuel. 95% of the energy is still in the fuel. Use it. Further deplete it. Then whatever you have left, whatever you can't left reprocess it, then you can bury that. You put it in somebody's basement, for God's sakes. It'd be so low radioactivity. So no, nuclear waste is a great talking point for the nuclear industry. It's not the problem they like you to think it is. Have you consumed radiation? I'm consuming radiation right now. Anytime I eat anything, I'm consuming radiation. Maybe you're just joining us here. I've talked about this a lot already on this program. Let's see here. What about the resulting waste? Some reactors do this, don't they? What about reusing the waste? Some reactors do this, don't they? Yeah, well, that's one of the things, reuse. Well, I'm not sure about reuse, but reprocessing, yes. Not in the US, though. This is one of the ways you can prove that, in fact, I can put this link here because this is another great link, if I can find it here quick. Here I can prove to you that, spell it right, it'll help. Spell nuclear correctly. Yeah, okay, I'm going to put this link in here for something else you can look at. I already put a couple links. This is one I found real quick here. Copy. It's from the, let's see here. And it's not a fear mongering. It's not a conspiracy theory place. It's not a, it's real. Let's see here. Chat. Paste. Send. Okay, you can read it along if you want to look at it. This is from the U.S. Government Accountability Office, the GOA. And if you scroll down about just the first bullet point, it's just a little bit down. I'm going to read this to you. The nation has over 85,000 metric tons of spent nuclear fuel from commercial nuclear power plants. DOE, Department of Energy, is responsible for disposing of this high-level waste in a permanent geological repository, but has yet to build such a facility because policymakers have been in an impasse over what to do with this spent fuel since 2010. As a result, the amount of spent nuclear fuel stored at nuclear power plants across the country in spent fuel pools usually, but also in casks, continues to grow by about 2,000 metric tons a year. Meanwhile, the federal government has paid billions of dollars, get this, the federal government has paid billions of dollars in damages to utilities for failing to dispose of this waste and may potentially have to pay tens of billions of dollars more in coming decades. The federal government is paying damages to utilities who want to do away with the waste, but the federal government is preventing them from doing it. And the utilities are collecting the money to dispose of the waste in the utility rates. It's already been paid for, but they can't do it, so they have to store it. So the government is paying damages, billions of dollars a year in damages to the utilities because of their refusal to have a nuclear waste disposable facility. And to top that off, Jimmy Carter made the reprocessing illegal in the United States, supposedly because of proliferation. Ronald Reagan came along and removed that ban. However, by then, so many investors got burned. Why would anybody invest in that again? Because it's actually now legal to do, but we have no reprocessing here in the US. France reprocesses a lot. Russia reprocesses a lot. A lot of countries reprocesses their nuclear waste. We don't, because the government is actively trying to make nuclear energy the demon so that they can get rid of everything, but they're ruinables. Got me? And I just proved to you the nuclear waste, government knows all about it. They're not allowing the utilities to do something with it. They are purposely making it a problem that it isn't even a problem of. And then the press helps them along by saying how bad nuclear waste is. There's less nuclear waste. And here's another thing you can look up. Google the phrase, coal ash is more radioactive than nuclear waste. Coal ash being disposed of all over the world without any much regulations. It's there in your yard. It covers everything. Little, minute particles of it. It's nothing to really be worried about. But the coal ash is actually more radioactive than nuclear waste. And there's a whole lot more of it, and it's spread all over the world. But anyway, check that link out for you non-believers. See, I prefer not to believe anything. I prefer to know. In fact, if you look at the word belief or believe, you'll see the letters L-I-E right in the middle of it. You might find a lie right in the middle of what you believe. I try not to believe. I'd like to know. I say, okay, somebody else talking to somebody else. I've heard that offshore windmills are killing whales. I haven't researched that. I've seen the things about it. Supposedly the offshore windmills, not only the sonar or whatever to scope the ground penetrating radar and such, affects their hearing or damages their hearing, their ears, and also the pile driving when it comes time to build them. Supposedly a lot of whales are affected about that. I can't really comment much more on that, but yeah, I've heard that. I don't know the exact, I can't debunk that if that's true or not. Will tritium harm any microbes or microscopic organisms? Well, I already showed you that it doesn't accumulate and doesn't harm anything. Again, there's more tritium in nature than there thousands of times more tritium already in the ocean than what Fukushima was putting. 3,400 grams of tritium in the ocean now on the planet's surface, and most of it's in the ocean. And Fukushima is going to add 2 to 3 grams out of 3,400. Didn't Russia pollute a large area with nuke waste and cause lots of health troubles? Russia and US both did something similar, not properly burying it or disposing of it. And in the US it's called Hanford Nuclear Reservation. And it's a big toxic cleanup site. And yes, Russia has that kind of site too, where people that go near there or don't have the protection could be affected by nuclear problems of various things that are still there that they've done over the past 70 years. So yes, that can be a concern. Thanks, Craig, for sharing with us. Live stream, we enjoyed. Okay, somebody's probably signing off. Yep. Yellowstone, NASA, didn't hear about that. I'd be scared too. Thanks anyway, sweet. Okay, I've caught up, and I've been on almost 2 hours, an hour and 45 minutes. I'll probably leave this up. I don't know how many people are actually gonna watch it, but I was hoping I was hoping something like this could go viral, because this information that everybody's missing needs to get out there. I need one of my videos to really slap the hell out of people, to wake them up about this tritium thing from Fukushima, or nuclear war, or whatever, nuclear winter, nuclear energy, all this stuff that you've been lied to all your life about this. And unless you research it and look beyond what the media is spoon feeding you, you're always going to be in the dark. And it's a shame. So I thank everybody for joining. I'm going to sign off now. My voice is probably going to be, do shorts. Yeah, I did a short, and they lied to me about the short. I proved that in my videos. Go look at the one short I did. I might do some shorts. It's still only got 2,000 views, really. It might be up to 2,500 now after a couple months. I don't know. YouTube hates me. I mean, that's the simple answer. I might do some shorts, but why do I hold the phone the wrong way? Why do I want to worry about what TikTok does? Oh, anyway, I have hardly any subscribers, but if I do shorts, they get thousands of views. Well, okay, I got thousands of views, but did it give you any subscribers? Does it improve your viewership? They may have just been sending. If you look at the video I did showing, kind of proving that they were sending me fake numbers, because they've been trying to get me to do shorts for so long, and then I finally do one and they send me fake numbers, and I think I proved that in my video a couple months ago. Okay, well, I didn't get any. It does for you, good. It didn't improve my subscribership any. I don't think I got any new subscribers when I did the one short I did. But yeah, I might do some. But I have some ideas in mind that I could do a lot of shorts, but I don't know that they're worth it. And I don't get paid, and I don't get many recognition for it. I get no increase in subscriberships, or it doesn't. I want a little bit of reaction, a little bit besides the trolls. I like little bit of prompting to see I'm doing something good, and YouTube's not allowing me to do that. Okay, thanks everybody for watching. I'm signing off now. Craig, thanks for everybody for joining in. So long.